used to get my water out of the lake. Right now, I'm still getting out of the lake, but I used to have a buoy that was way out in the water, and I had a pipe going across, you know, and went to the pump that was hanging to the bottom of that buoy. My problem was that I could not get over the temptation of shooting that buoy out. And I don't know how many buoys I went through with before I finally decided I was just going to dig a hole and put that well down there right there at the beach. So I dug a hole, set a 10-foot culvert down in it that's 4 foot wide, and stood back in my 45 Colt. Bam, 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 shot a bunch of holes in it so the water could seep in. And that's how I get my water. It used to be a real narrow trail going down to the cemetery. And back in 1996, when the matron of the village here, Mary Allsworth, passed away, it was August the 8th, and we all came out of the killing fields to be at the funeral. It was the last year, it was the last time I saw Dick Prentice, the old man of the wilderness, alive, and he was there at the funeral. And Glenn Allsworth, my good friend that runs Lake Clark Air and owns over there, Glenn nailed together literally a pine box and put his mama in it. And we pulled her behind a four-wheeler and came down that trail, and it was real narrow and going up the cemetery, and it tripped over and fell and rolled. And her box, she got out and tried to get to, there was a restaurant there. I thought she was going for her last meal. And she didn't, she went right to the door of the restaurant. And Glenn went and picked his mama up, gave her a kiss, put her back in the box, nailed it shut, and we buried her. Now that's Fort Allsworth. Were you here when Babe Allsworth was buried just a few years ago? I said, no, I wasn't at that funeral. He says, they buried him in a cardboard box. And they had black felt pen arrows pointed this side up. And that one went in and said, put the head here. And so that's, you know, it's just really unique, Fort Allsworth. Now what I want to do is show you this airplane a little bit. So come over here. There's many times when we bend these struts here, we literally will take alder branches and we will put them here and duct tape them to hold the wing on. And so it's amazing what you can do. I put my rifle in here, always carry a saw. Got my axe on the other side. And inside here is all this. Under here, see, I've got all kinds of survival gear. I've got some tools and different ways to start a fire. As I've been down in the bush, I know what to carry now. I always buckle everything down. I carry gas and stuff because I don't. If I flip or something happens, I don't want to hit my hit me on the back. This is probably my biggest survival gear is my sat phone. Yeah. And I don't know how many times I've carried had to use that. I've got this in here only because I'm hiding it kind of, but I don't like to just leave this out. But this is that new Ruger in the AK-47 round. Wow. And which is pretty cool. You know, let me tell you, it's 30 caliber, and you know, that's a pretty wicked deal, actually. So, and I've got extra, you know, up to 30 rounds, and I would use this for even bear. I'm not kidding you. I'm not even putting a scope on it. Got the sights, and I stick it right in there, and I strap it in. I forgot to strap stuff in there and lost a rifle one time.
How many times you crashed this thing?
This one here, actually, you know what? I hadn't even crashed this one yet. No, let me knock on wood. But I had one I went through 3 or 4 times, just one, and rebuilt it 3 or 4 times. And then the one before that, 2 or 3 times. And they get better rebuilding them, actually. Yeah. I even have a third one because I can do 3. I told Franklin he needs to get me a new one of these. He bought me this many years ago, and it's a survival. It's got all kinds of ways to start a fire. That'd be a good birthday present. He needs to think about this. For a birthday. I got to remind him, his birthday is Saturday, so. This thing is built to fly, and I can land in 100 feet, take off in 100, depends on the winds and a lot of things. It's 180 horsepower. It's very powerful.
You land on sandbars?
Oh, sandbars. I run on the water with it. Those tires, I keep the tail wheel off. Tires, generally, these tires are like $5,000 each. They're very expensive. And the gear is, everything is set up. Even the tail wheel is a lot bigger. I can land in, one of the things you don't land on is anything green if you can help it. You land on gray, brown. And if you start landing on green, you can figure there's going to be moisture there and a good chance you might end up on your back. And the last time I ended up having any kind of problem like that, this airplane, you'll see some dents on the wing. I was laying in front of Franklin in the winter up here on a strip that was real short on skis, and you got no control with skis. And when I touched down, it started going sideways. Evidently my tail wheel got froze like this, and it was making me go to the left. So I had a decision, split decision. It was 900 feet, and you slide, and you slide a mile on skis. And I just, and the river was right in front, and I would have wrecked if I hadn't have given it the gas and gone around, or I just rode it out, hoping that I would, it would come out all right. And I decided that I'd slow down enough, I would probably be okay. But it did went slowly right into the bushes. And when I got out, I fell down in 10 feet of snow. I mean, I had to dig out to get back up to my gear. And fortunately, there were some snowmobiles in the area were able to pull me back out. It did knock out my headlight up there, but it was nothing. I haven't done anything else to it. You can see some skids and stuff. I can take off at 100 to 200 feet, and I can do it pretty well loaded. It's got 180 horsepower. So we like to go snow skiing and with airplanes in the winter. And we get down low, we hunt for wolves. We look for tracks, even bird tracks. We take our shotguns with us. Out of the airplane, you can't shoot from the airplane. And you're supposed to be 100 feet from the airplane. So here's the procedure. We got somebody, two of you, and so we land. He jumps out with a rifle. I give it the gun, fast taxi away. So he's 100 feet. Because I'll tell you, by the time you put on snowshoes and try to run 100 feet, the wolves are going to be gone. So I can tell you, that's how we do it. They jump out, and I fast taxi away, and they shoot. And so that's the way you get 100 feet away. It's a crazy. So, and sometimes when you land on the ice, you'll go half a mile or a mile. You can't stop because you don't have brakes on skis. And so it's interesting. We've shot. There have been a few times I got on the ski and had to shoot right off the skis, at something because the airplane wouldn't stop. Or I'd just jump off and then chase the airplane down later. So a lot of things happen like that. But probably the last big event I had with airplane that ended up upside down was on the Taylor Mountains. Winds were picking up. Focused on the family. The whole board was there. And we had them up on the mountain to shoot caribou. And I could see the wind, I could see the high Cirrus coming in, and I got on the radio report and said a big low, a typhoon, a leftover typhoon from Japan was moving in and was going to eat the whole state. I mean, a big low, counterclockwise is going to be bad. And so really bad winds, very tight wind gradient on the map. And so I went up there real quick and I told them, guys, you got to get ready. We got to get out of here. I got to get you off today. And so Rocky and they all started scrambling to get stuff. I'd set them on a hill. I call it. It was like a dinosaur back. I mean, it was just a mess of a hard place to land, and you kind of land into the hill and bounce up on top, that type of thing. And so I started getting them off. I did not take the game they had down with them. I'd take them on and I'd go down and land on a gravel bar on the whole Litna. It's only 200 feet, and run back up there, get another guy, and then I maybe bring some meat and tie on some antlers and just keep working. I got down to where there was one caribou left, maybe two caribou, and a couple of racks, and I should have just left them, but I went back up there. The wind's kicking 30 knots now, and I'm alone, and I landed, and I got out and throwing the caribou in, and a gust picked my airplane up literally, and I just jumped over the struts here and held on, and it picked us up, and I went back about 50 feet. I mean, I thought it was all over. And I'm on a ridge at probably 3,000 foot level. And so when I finally got in, I was tying the racks on this side because the wind had been this way on the ridge. And so it would kind of offset the wind. And what I think happened when I started my takeoff roll, the wind switched to this side, and it lifted my light wing, and I'm flying like this, and I just couldn't make it. My wing, I couldn't out climb, and I caught the wing, and I'm upside down. The airplane's wrecked, and I had to roll up in a tarp that night, and I didn't even have my gun with me. It was the dumbest thing I'd ever, because I was trying to have all the weight preserved so I could just haul stuff, and of course no flight plan. And so that night I rolled up in a tarp, and the wind must have hit 80 or 90 mile an hour that night, and I heard my airplane go 2 or 3 times. And so when I got up in the morning, I looked out, I didn't even see the airplane. And when I found it, I'd never believed in 10 days I flew it off. But 10 days later, I flew that airplane off. One wing was at 1,000 feet, another wing was at 2,000, and fuselage was off the side there, and upside down. And I finally got the radio to work. Of course, all the gas poured out of the wings, but I got the radio to work, and I got a 747 going across from Japan. And I got a phone number to him and said, call west side of the Taylors. And so they got a hold of somebody, and then old Dangerous Dan from Red Devil, is my buddy up there, owns Red Devil Hardware. He come out there looking for me and found me. And this was like the second or third day. I already had a brown bear come and with cubs, and I mean, took my meat, which was fine with me, and I'm let him have the meat. And so, but I was eating that raw meat, you know, and then he dropped a note and said, "What do you want me? You want me to call RCC, which is Rescue Command Center in Anchorage?" And I gave him the signal no. And so he said, he dropped a note and said a fellow was in Red Devil that would loan me his cub. In fact, used to be one of mine, and I had sold it to him. And he said he'd trust me and he'd let me use it to rescue mine. And so that was a good thing. And so he would not land where I was. So he said he wanted me to go down and make an airstrip about a mile away. So I went down on a more level spot, set up a place, marked it for an airstrip, and he flew in and landed, and he was so scared. The first thing he did was go to the bathroom, and then he said, "You're gonna fly us out of here," and I said, "No problem." And so I flew him out of there, and I used his airplane to bring up stuff to repair mine. And then 10 days later, I flew that airplane out with 2 feet cut off one wing, a foot off the other. The engine was canted 15 degrees. I didn't even change the motor mount. I had to put in new windshield, new skylight. You will not fly without the windshield or skylights. You got to have those. And I had to put new landing gear on. The struts, I literally took branches from an alder and I cut them and laid them here and duct taped them to hold the struts together because they were all bent. And I kept the same struts. And so I flew out of there 10 days later, September 28th, in the evening, just before dark. We put 5 gallons in one tank, and I knew I had 5 gallons there, and I told him to do the same thing in the other because we had 100-something miles to get to Red Devil. And evidently he only put about 2 or 3 gallons. The wind was blowing, it was getting late, we're about to dark. When I flew off, it flew, believe it or not, it belched it'd been upside down so long, a lot of blue smoke. And that mechanic was smart enough to get in, I was dumb enough to get in with me, and with his toolbox. And fortunately he had a lighter or something because we wouldn't even had a match. And I'm heading for Red Devil. It took off, and I'm flying to Red Devil. It's flying really crooked, and we got 15 minutes from Red Devil, and the engine quit. In the dark, no lights in the airplane or outside. And I looked down, I was 2,500 feet, and I could see kind of a light area, and I figured it was a swamp. And I started circling over it. When I got down and started pulling up, I could see darkness in front of me, and I figured it were trees. So I pulled up, and bled off my airspeed, and ended up in another swamp. I got pictures of the swamp. It was quite small, and ended up going into it and sitting down. And we went on the waves, knocked down a couple more trees, ended up upside down in about 4 feet of water. And we got out and built a fire and huddled together. And it's a whole other, tell you how I rescued that airplane.